But because of my faith, I was always involved like in different church groups. And so that always kind of kept me grounded that no matter where I lived at, I was always in God's presence. I was always in his world that he created. And that's really like the foundation of like who I am. I believe in humanity. I believe that there's gifts within all of us. And it's our responsibility to help nurture others people's gifts. Mm-hmm. And if we nurture their gifts, the blessings will flow. So it's not so much about me, it's more about the we.
Yeah. Welcome to the Americus Podcast, where we pursue what it means to become a next level neighbor, creating a place we enjoy with the people we love. I'm your host, John Schroeder, and today I am joined by Fernando Jackson, and you may know him as Farmer Fredo, the man behind Flint River Fresh. He's been teaching South Georgia how to grow food and also grow community. I'm so thankful to have you as a guest. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you guys for the invite and the opportunity just to pause and to reflect and to share our story.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a great way to start, because we always are asking the question, what do you do? But it's so important to ask a better question is, who are you? And so do you mind just giving us a little basic origin story of who you are and how you became Farmer Fredo?
So first and foremost, I'm a husband. I'm a father. I am a son, a nephew, a cousin, and I am a partner, right? And so I always like to put in that context because without my wife, my son, my mother, my brothers, my sister, my aunts and uncle, I wouldn't be who I am today. And then also, so I am a child of Plains, Georgia. So I was born in Sumter County, raised in Plains. My grandfather was Deacon Arzell Jackson of Lebanon Baptist Church, and my grandmother was Miss Annie Roof of Lebanon Baptist Church. And then also later on in life, I got to know my dad's side of the family as well. And so Miss Willie Roof, Grandma Pee Wee, helped raise me. And so I'm a church kid, like to the heart. And so that's like my real foundation of who I am. And part of why I look at community the way that I do is because of the influence of my grandfather and grandmother on my mom's side. Because as a little kid, they had a little community store. And at the community store, I remember being in kindergarten and learning how to count by counting pennies. Yeah. And then I also knew in first grade, second grade, third grade that all the kids in the neighborhood would stop by Mr. Arzell's store and get some penny cookies. And here I was being a salesperson, but it wasn't sales for capital's sake. It was sales because the community had a need. And I remember my grandfather taking me on Saturday mornings, driving to Americus. They had a place called Cash and Carry, which was similar to Sam's Club, but we would go there and buy wholesale the cookies, the drinks, and things like that, and would bring them back to Plains. And people that didn't have cars would come to my grandfather's makeshift little store and get what they need. And one of the things that always stuck out to me about my grandfather's store was he had like a little notepad. And on the notepad, he had people's names, and it was a form of credit, so to speak, that people that couldn't quite afford it could still get their basic needs of bread, sugar. I don't think he had candy on credit. I don't remember that part, because like whenever I had candy, we had to pay for it. But that was like my foundation of what does a business look like, but the business itself is in place to support the community around it. And so as I've gotten older, like we left Americus and Plains and moved to Clearwater, Florida. We moved as far north as Bridgeport, Connecticut. And then I ended back up here in Americus for my junior and senior year of high school. And so that's why I always tell people that I'm from Americus, but I literally live up and down the East Coast. And so my influence of what life looks like is very broad. Because when you stayed in Florida and when you stayed up north in Connecticut, you're introduced to just different cultures, different ways of living, different just people. But because of my faith, I was always involved like in different church groups. And so that always kind of kept me grounded that no matter where I lived at, I was always in God's presence. I was always in his world that he created. And that's really like the foundation of like who I am. I believe in humanity. I believe that there's gifts within all of us. And it's our responsibility to help nurture others people's gifts. And if we nurture their gifts, the blessings will flow. So it's not so much about me, it's more about the we.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that definitely sounds like someone used the word grounded, rooted, stayed, steady. That takes a lot of deep reflection over a long period of time. Was there ever a moment where you felt like maybe this isn't me? I am learning about different cultures. I kind of want to go in a different direction, or did you not have any of those particular moments?
No, I think any person growing up in the different places that I traveled, and then also when you start to read, your knowledge about the world expands. Your knowledge about the universe expands, right? So there's always this constant pursuit of growth that happens. And with that, there was definitely some trying times. So after college, I got into the entertainment industry. I had goals that study with the Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, SMU, kind of is known as like the Princeton of the South. So really like I'm around high class kids driving Mercedes Benz and BMWs and things like that. And here I am from Americus, Georgia. And just happy to ride the bike to the South Side to hang out with my buddy, rest in peace, Scooter. And so with that, I had to figure out like who I am. Like I tell people all the time, I went through my phase of what I call like nationalism. Was all about, African Americans have been enslaved and we haven't got our just due. I definitely went through that phase. And then I also went through the phase of, you have to tie your shoelaces, get your bootstraps and do what you got to do. And then I also just landed into entertainment. So in college, I was blessed to do an internship with Jive Records. And so I was in marketing and sales, doing record labels. So at that time, Jive Records had like Britney Spears, Hit Me Baby One More Time, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys. We had Arista Records that had Alicia Keys to Whitney Houston, had LaFace Records that had Outkast to TLC, and all in entertainment. And then technology happened. Record stores started closing, and I always tell people like I was given an option to take a service package. Like I didn't know what a service package was. I was pretty young, which is, like a chunk of money to allow you to leave the company and get off on good foot. And I stayed until it was like, okay, we're shutting down this division. Now you have to figure out like your way. And that was my cry on the floor moment. Like, God, why did you bring me so far to kind of abandon me sort of moment? But in that moment of tears, in the moment of, crying out to God for help, I just remember like saying to him and asking this question, well, if I don't do anything else, what can I do to draw more people to you and for your son to be like lifted up?
Yeah.
And whatever that might look like, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
And I remember that I had a buddy of mine, Bro and Black. had a record label publishing company called slipping my mind, like Burning City, because Atlanta had the fire, so it was kind of rooted in that. And Rose's girlfriend at the time had a relationship with Reverend Joseph P. Lowry. Okay. So Joseph P. Lowry is one of Dr. King's right-hand man during like the civil rights movement.
Wow.
And he had an organization called like the Coalition of the People's Agenda. And his girlfriend invited me to this meeting. Of course, I don't fell out to the Lord like in prayer, crying tears. Like my cousin was there, see me falling out crying. Like I'm talking about snotty nose, Lord, help me. Mm-hmm. We need to do this for real tears. And so I'm invited to this meeting. And at the close of their meeting, they asked people to pray. And I was like, that's all I do is pray because that's all I got. I ain't got no money. I am an apartment, but don't really have no resources. Matter of fact, I think that time that's when I started the part of my life where I was like sleeping on friends, like couches, because I still felt I was called to be a record executive because I thought I would be like VP of marketing sales for entertainment. And I got asked to pray. And I remember in the prayer, I called out all tribes of Judah. I was like, we are the tribe of Benjamin. Like I went all the way in. And then afterwards, this big guy came up to me by the name of Reverend James Orange. And he was also one of Dr. King's foot soldier. As a matter of fact, when Dr. King was assassinated or killed at Lorraine Motel, Reverend Orange was actually downstairs in the lobby. Mm-hmm. So he was that part of like inner circle. And he's like 6'4", big bear, looked like a linebacker from like, no disrespect to Georgia, but like a big linebacker from like Alabama, like big guy, right? And he just came up to me, he was like, hey, leader. He called everybody leader. And his impression of me was just like, can you help me? And it was just like, we need help with get out the vote. We need help with taking out the trash. We just need somebody willing to serve. Do you want to just serve? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I don't have nothing to really give you. But every day when I showed up to serve, he had chicken and fish. Mm-hmm. And it was just that simple of what food could do. But Reverend Orange welcomed all people. Mm-hmm. And it was the beauty of seeing in a room people from all backgrounds, all creeds, all beliefs, all economic, believing in Dr. King's legacy to create a better world, a beloved community, and watching somebody live the gospel in a way that was very practical. Yeah. So it didn't seem like, you got your pastor at the pulpit, give me like this dynamic word, laying hands, and that's like that seems so far unattainable for me to like, mm-hmm. I can't see Jesus and a pastor because that's just way out there to me. Yeah. But watching Reverend Orange of just a simple part of the gospel where like, if I was hungry, you fed me. Mm-hmm. If I was naked, you gave me, clothes. If I didn't have a house, you gave me a place to stay. Like that simpleness of the gospel, I saw it through Reverend Orange, and it was in a way that was very real. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't, like I'm not knocking anybody what they do, but like sometimes when you're trying to help some people, there's a level of I'm a little bit better than you, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. But the way Reverend Orange came, then it was just like, you're just here to help. I don't care what you like, how you look, what you look like, just here to help and serve. And that became that aha moment of this is how the gospel is going to look to me. Yeah. This is how I take these words. And through Reverend Orange, I got introduced to Hosea Williams. He had a program called Feed the Hungry in Atlanta, and they would just give away food to people, mm-hmm. Do things at a convention center for like seniors. And I just noticed that my grandmother was like to this day, I tell stories about eating my grandmama's biscuits going to college. Like that's all I wanted. But I noticed that was something I connected to, which is the joy of someone knowing that they're going to get fed, mm-hmm. and knowing that they're not going to be judged about their appearance, mm-hmm. and that we're just here to put some food on your plate and to make sure that at least tonight you're not going to go to bed with your stomach growling. Yeah. And that catapulted everything else. It was just a simple Thanksgiving meal, Hosea Feed the Hungry, that kind of catapulted like, well, you know, my grandmama got a cookbook and people like soul food.
Yeah.
Well, what does that look like? And Lord, what does it look like?
Yeah.
And I can keep going on and on and on.
So you go from this strong rooted spiritual family, these creeds that you grow up with, you go into the cinema world and you find yourself in a place where you're completely dependent upon God now, right? On a personal level. So you go from cinema then to really going back into community and church and finding your purpose there. So you kind of have that from creeds to cinema to now church community. Like, where can I be tangible? The hands and feet of Jesus. That's right. Is that a good?
That's it.
Okay. And so your transformation from going to, you know, what's in your hand to now being Farmer Fredo, right? The one with seed in your hand, who literally put, whether it's a physical seed or a spiritual seed of go and help. Is that where that came from? A lot of the food distribution, trying to get that out. So during this, I find myself moment, Reverend Orange, I got introduced to the American Friends Service Committee, which is a Quaker organization. Okay. And never been around Quakers. C-Rep, shout out to C-Rep. And so they were doing this program where they were traveling around the state to different college campuses, kind of talking about where our taxpayer dollars could go if they wasn't towards like military, right? Yeah. And we made a stop here in Americus because I just really wanted to, like, you know, see my mama because I ain't seen her forever. And we spent the night at Koinonia Farms in Americus. And I had never heard of Koinonia, but for talking to my mom, I had heard of Koinonia, but I had never, didn't know what it was. And so at the time, Koinonia had, they had the museum, and they just talked about like the history of what Koinonia experienced, what it was about. And being at that point in my life was really about humanity, human rights, and respect of person. I was really moved by what Koinonia stood on, and I remember that visit. I came back in like December, and I met Bryn Dubé, the director, and she just offered, like, they had an internship program, and so I knew I wasn't trying to go back to Atlanta to be a record executive, because I felt that most people that I was dealing with, except for my Burning City family, had an ego, and they want to be the star of the show. And I knew that the only star was God and Jesus. Like, nobody can be higher than that. Yeah. If you don't put that top or serving other people, we're not going to rock. And so I came back and I did the internship, and at Koinonia, there was I call him my soil brother, Brendan Pendergrass, and he was the farm manager at Koinonia. And then there was Bone, Reverend Norris Harris, who was also a farmer at Koinonia. And they were literally like, we have this 1/4 acre land. Just do what you want, right? And never grew anything in my life. Never. Then only thing I knew about. How old were you at this time?
I call it the Jesus year, like 30. Okay. And what made this so powerful for me is, like I said, my grandmother had a cookbook that came out during President Carter's presidency, like in 1977 or 78. Third page of the cookbook is a picture of me, 2 years old, with potato salad on my cheek. And I said, well, since I have this time here at Koinonia, they give me this kitchen garden. Why don't I just go through and look at all the vegetables in my grandmother's cookbook, and I'm just going to learn how to grow them. Like, that's all it started. But it just so happened at Koinonia, they have the vision that every day at noon, they want to serve people a hot meal. And so, being that I had the kitchen garden, my responsibility, I felt that my responsibility was, there go the vegetables that would be served during the kitchen meal. And that's what I focused in on. Just went all in, They say go to feed and seed. They say go wherever you need to go, do what you have to do. And spring break happens. And at Koinonia during spring break, there will be like college kids that come in doing like service projects, because Koinonia is the birthplace for Habitat for Humanity. We have like people that come in from Germany, just want to hear the Habitat story. And it was for a person that was homeless, that was trying to find their way, to have total strangers sit down and praise the food that they were eating and the vegetables that were part of this meal did so much in terms of how it made me felt that I was like, well, if you don't know your way and you're able to feed people and those people tell you thank you, that could do a lot for making you just feel good. And so is that the moment, or one of the moments, where you realized that food wasn't just about feeding people? That was it.
But about dignity and health and their future.
Yeah. And then also how our differences were removed because we have to sit down and eat. So no matter what you might have believed, no matter where you came from, for this 45 minutes,
we both got to eat.
We both eating, and we're both eating the same meal. And then we're also experiencing the same form of like prayer time. We're also experiencing, we're all reciting the Lord's Prayer together. So it kind of just put it in a context of this. And I remember, like I was telling people why I do these gardens now is if we can just take one meal out the week that nobody has to think about or worry about where it's going to come from, and it's provided, but it allows for you like to sit down and pause to look at the person across from you and just communicate. What type of community could we build if we're more just saying, I'm just here to sit down and listen to you, and you tell me about your day, I'm gonna tell you about my day. That's it.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this too. So Jesus used a lot of references to agriculture. What have you noticed are some similarities between gardening and people?
Well, number one, people can be stubborn because the ground can be it's hard. But I think the thing that I've noticed is patience. So when you're first really getting to know somebody, it takes a while for that seed to catch root. And so that's number one, patience. Number two, that we have to nurture. And part of like farming is that's because that seed is planted. A harvest is not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. It might not happen for 2 months, but every day, every other day, I still have to go out and weed it. I still have to go water it. I still have to nurture it. I still have to fertilize it. And so with people, it's the exact same way. And when I meet someone, God willing, if we're going to have a continual interaction, we know that it's a slow grind. It's a slow process. And so that's something I know. But then also another thing I've noticed, the similarities between agriculture and people, is that I can say collard greens, right? And most people say, oh, it's just one type of collard green. There's collard green, but then you might have, I'm planting 5 different varieties of collard greens right now, right? It's still collard greens, but I got top bunch, top chop, Georgia, Morris Heady, and then I have Alabama red, right? All different varieties, but they're still collards. So it kind of shows that you could be one race of people. And but in that race of people, there could be different varieties of that race of people. But at the end of the day, it's still part of God's plan, because those different varieties thrive in different climates, different weather patterns, and different environments. And it's the same with people. So regardless of a person's community background, the individual difference is like what God created that makes it unique. Even within like a family structure, right? We could still be the Jacksons, we could still be the Smith, but in it you might have a football player, a teacher, an electrician, an HVAC worker, a mechanic, a cosmetologist, a preacher, and I go on, this is like my whole family, right? A pilot, a pharmacist, a politician, all different. but at the heart of it, there's still Smiths and the Jackson.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I know about like agriculture. But then also what I also realized too is that the environment needs to be conditioned for the growth, right? So whether you're preparing the land, what type of equipment that you have to use is different. How you are feeding the plant might be different than another plant. And so with agriculture, it's just that it shows the patience, it shows the diversity, but also shows a commitment to the growth. Yeah. Like if you just throw the seed out and come back 6 weeks later, you're going to have a whole lot of turf grass and you're going to be quite upset and you're going to be hungry. So that pattern shows working with people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We actually just went through a series as a church that we use the 4 healthy soils or environments that help a seed grow. And it was from a book called The Other Half of the Church. And these were the 4 elements of a healthy soil. One was joy. To be in a community that's going to help you to change, you have to have joy in it. And the phrase that's used is, I'm glad you're here. So if you walk into an environment and they say, I'm glad you're here, that gives you an opportunity to grow. So that's one. The other one is hesed, which is loving attachments. The phrase is, I'm not going anywhere. So if you come into an environment that says, I'm glad you're here and I'm not going anywhere, that gives you an awesome opportunity to grow. The third one is group identity, which is, this is who we are in Christ because we're a church, right? And so this is who you are in Christ. This is, we all identify as believers in Christ Jesus, right? Yes. And then the fourth one is called healthy correction, which is this idea of making sure that we're getting the weeds out, right? That we're not just letting anything grow in the soil, but that we're kind of doing the work, right? To keep things out so that the seed can actually grow. And so I completely agree that we have to have healthy soil, not just for our gardens, right, but for our hearts to be able to grow for change. And so, man, that's a beautiful picture. And anytime you can kind of, like I said, you're using food as a means to display something that's even bigger than what we can tangibly see is right. Beautiful. So, okay, well, one of the things that I feel like everyone knows that we should be eating better or doing our own part or maybe being able to, grow our own food. But what kind of mentality do people have to, like, what are the objections? What do people have to get over to say, all right, I'm going to do this?
I think you just said it. Yeah. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But how I frame it for people. So my work now is focused on youth development, creating a space for like young people to see beyond where they're currently living at. Okay. So we have like a program at Flint River Fresh called Fresh Root Rising. And so while I'm focusing on young people is that I just, my son is off the GSW now, raising like another young man as well. And so I want them to have an identity of what like hard work looks like and the reward from it. And so part of what what I'm trying to get to is why you should grow is based upon who you are and people connecting to who you are. Yeah. Because the part that folks have missed about farming is that back in the day when people farm, they farm for community. So it wasn't somebody farming and it got shipped all the way across country. Yeah. It was more like I'm farming and what I'm growing is going to benefit the people right here in the neighborhood where I'm from, right? Yeah, absolutely. And so what happens with that narrative is that people connect to their food, but they're really connecting to that farmer. Yeah. So who that farmer is, what he's growing, what type of life does that farmer live? And so I'm trying to bring back that narrative about knowing your food, but also most importantly, knowing where your food comes from. Yeah. Because a lot of times, if you look at it from a business model, right? So if I'm gonna start a business, I need to know my customers, right? And then I also need to necessarily know what do my customers like, because that's what I'm gonna have inside my store. The flip happens with farming. From a community standpoint, and I'm going to use this example. When I first started my community garden in Albany, Phoebe Hospital donated the land to me, and I really went crazy. Like I got all this land, I got access to seeds, I can grow anything, I can grow 30 crops, I can do it. I've done it. And I planted carrots, I planted lettuce. I planted kale. Because that's what, like, oh, kale is a superfood. People need to eat more kale. And so planted those things. And the whole point of my community farms is that they're open and people in the neighborhood can come get what they need for a meal. Like there's no fence or any of that sort of stuff. Just come get what you need. But they did not touch the kale. They did not touch the lettuce, the people in that community. And so I asked the question, why aren't you eating kale? They're like, only time I ever seen kale was as garnishment around a salad bar when I went to a restaurant. We don't eat kale. I said, well, do you eat collards? Like, yes. Do you eat turnips? They're like, yes. Do you eat mustards? Yes. And so as a business person, you find out what your customer wants and then you give it to them. Yeah. And that's the core foundation of, as a community farmer, is let me grow what the people are asking for. So at our garden sites, people are saying like, why do you have Satsuma oranges? Why do you have peaches? Why do you have blueberries? Why do you have blackberries? Why do you have a strawberry patch? And my answer is, that's what the people want. Yeah. Yeah. Why do you have okra? Why do you have this? And so going back, I say all that to say that the community farmer is part of our culture, but we've kind of went away from it because we moved to the big city, farmland got turned over to this. But there's models that show with like 2 to like 10 acres of land, how you can feed hundreds of people healthy food, but not only just feed them, you have a space that can invite them to come out to the farm, for them to learn how to pick it themselves, for them to bring, like I always use a story about Aunt Mary and her having her grandchildren and them coming to the garden and harvesting the things that Aunt Mary likes to cook. So watching her like, get these greens up, and they got a trash bag of greens. Yeah. And I say, Aunt Mary, now you know what you got to do, right? She said, what's that, farmer? You got to take a picture and send it to me on my phone and show a picture of these young people eating what you just cooked. Yeah. And they do it. And then that has become like the narrative of the story. So now what I'm doing with the youth is bringing young people that never did agriculture, might have had a grandparent that had like a little garden in their backyard, or they're part of like the softball team or the football team, but know they like just being outdoors and want to do more stuff outdoors, and kind of showing them how planting this seed, taking care of it, watching it harvest, and then the face that they have when they start to see cars show up on you pick days and everybody gets out and pick, and then they're able to walk people through this garden space of all ages and explain how they did it from seed to harvest. That goes back to the seed that you talked about planting of joy, right? That seed of thankfulness, of gratitude. All those seeds that you just named in that book is actually happening in real time. And it's as practical and as simple as, we're just gonna go out here and put some seeds in the dirt. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I love that, because the mindset is not, let's put seeds in the dirt. It's so much more than that. And if you can cast a vision that way, it helps people to feel like they can be a part of something that's totally bigger. So would you say, based on some of the things you said, if someone comes to you and says, hey, what do I need to really have this? What are my ingredients in my mind to help actually put something on from paper to planting? Would you say something like, well, you got to think about the future. You can't just think about now. That's right. You got to have a future mindset. That's what I heard you say. And then the second thing is you got to have hard work. It's going to take some time. So got to think about the future. Don't think about today. But and then you got to think about others, because what you're planting is not just for yourself. Right. What you're planting is for others. And then the part of that is, and then just watch how this affects your community. So would you add any of those, just as far as like just ingredients, like what would it take for someone just to get there? Would you say that? Would you say, got to think about the future, got to have hard work, got to think about others, and then you got to be able to enjoy the results and be grateful for what's happening around you? The only thing I would add to that is you have to be a team player. Good. So how these community spaces, so I've done community gardens where somebody's like, oh, I have an empty lot and we want to put some boxes, and we've done it. And then we've come back 3 months later and the boxes are like overgrown with like turf grass, right? We've had it where schools have done the same thing. Like, hey, we want to start a school garden. So we come there, bring in the soil, get the plants, and then we come back 3 months later and it's still turf grass, it's overgrown, nobody's watering, nobody's tending to it. So one of the things that we require like now when we get approached is, what's your vision for this space? And your vision has to be beyond growing vegetables. So we do a program called Fresh Works with Flint River Fresh, where we're going to businesses about developing workplace community gardens to have a space of wellness, mental health retreat, community engagement. So that's a foundation. So now we know it's not about the garden, it's about the community that's going to be utilizing the garden space. So before we plant a seed, let's just have a conversation on, hypothetically, what community is going to benefit from this garden? Is it your workers? Is it, if you are a health clinic, is it the patients? If it's in a neighborhood, what are the families in this neighborhood, and how are you going to get this family to come back out to this garden space to engage with it, right? So before we just say, let's bring in the tractors, let's bring in the soil, let's cut the wood, let's have a big garden planting day, let's just talk about, in the next 3 to 5 years, what this garden space mean to the location where it's at, and how can we use this location to improve the wellness of the community? How can we use this space to talk about the health issues within this community? How can we use this garden space to talk about, to bring the community together just because we have to harvest? What are those tangible questions that we can ask before we plant a seed? Because we found that if you just, like I have 4 or 5 gardens I'm thinking of right now that literally were driven from somebody outside that community that had the resources for us to go in there and build it. And we built it, but we didn't take the time to go the neighborhood knocking. We didn't take the time just to ask the question of people in the neighborhood, what it is that you want to see. Do you want a garden or do you just want to walk outside and eat plums? Whichever one, we can do it, but let's just do that conversation first, because the reason why we start there now is that we know that Flint River Fresh, that we're outsiders. And so as outsiders, you don't want to just come in on a white horse to save the day. You really want to come in like, I want to be here because I'm going to do the grunt work. I'm going to have Zoom calls with your team on a monthly basis. I'm going to provide seeds and soils and fertilizers quarterly to make sure that you grow. I'm going to hold my end of the bargain, but I need to make sure that you have the support that you need to keep this going. Because nothing is more hurtful than you have a 1/4 acre filled with collards, turnips, and mustard greens that are sitting there, and then a block away, there's Aunt Mary starving because she's can't get out the house. She's in a wheelchair, and the only way she's going to get fresh food is for us to bring it to her, and we can't bring it to her because we didn't build that relationship to make that happen. And so I said a lot, but in the day, it's community, it's people, it's a network of volunteers that help, because also you're going to have people that are willing to do like the dirt work, that are willing to participate in the Zoom call, that'll be willing to take a grow guide and read through it and make notes and provide pictures and feedback. All that's needed for that garden to be successful. But if you don't tell people up front, people just think, oh, just throw a seed out there. I'm gonna just put the overhead sprinklers on. And I'm gonna show up and we're gonna be eating like it's Thanksgiving.
No, so you would say that the things when you go back to a place and you see that, you see it's not being taken care of, would you say that a few of those things is just lack of awareness of what that community needs? There's also a lack of accountability because no one's taking it and making sure that it doesn't get to that place. So we have a lack of awareness, lack of accountability. And then you talk about just bringing in not just the community to come and partake, but also just build a team of people that says, hey, I want you to continue this for the next, year or two with me. Yeah. Right. So a lot of people are just kind of taking it upon themselves going, oh, I'm going to do this, but they don't have the time to do it. Have you noticed that that's one of the things too, is people get really excited about what you're doing. So they have the vision for it, but they don't know how to manage it. And so someone who has a great vision, but doesn't have any management skills and doesn't know how to delegate it, it's just going to turn into an old garden that no one takes care of.
That's right. Just turf grass. And going back to like in my own personal growth, right? Is that part of what I had to learn is like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Right. So I can show you a plane flying at 35,000 feet.
Yeah.
All day. But how do we get from the airport to 35,000? I don't even know. Mm-hmm. I'm just to get you go. But I've learned that the more time you spend in the system aspect of it, the growth happens. But then also what I feel too is that sometimes you don't know how much work it really does take, and you underestimate how much work, and then that time gets away from you.
Yeah.
The thing about nature and seeds is that even when you're sleeping, it's still growing. Mm-hmm. Even when you're going on vacation, it's still growing. So it doesn't stop because you are tired. It doesn't stop because your back is aching. It doesn't stop because of how you feel. And that's why it's important of having a team, because we all know as humans that we do have highs and lows. We have family emergencies that could come up. Like I remember one of my first gardens that I did when I left Cornelia and went to Albany. I was working at a farm called Healthy Living Farm. And for some reason, I had to go somewhere for like 2 weeks. And I explained to people, when I leave, spray this on the squash plants because it's going to have squash vine borer. Buds are going to get it.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah. It was a church group. They're like, oh, yeah, we could do it. We got you. No problem. So then I come back 2 weeks now. Squash has worms eating up the squash. The plant is just wilting over. The grass and stuff around it just started like sprouting up because, again, they didn't know how much work it really took, because people that farm, people that like being outdoors, we do it effortlessly, right? Like we just make it look easy, but it's work to it. But if you have enough team support, and that's where I've really been about building a team, because it creates that accountability factor, right? And so when we have like this system, this plan, you're going to do this on the second week of September, this on the third week of September, and 6 other people know what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You can like check in with each other and move forward. And I think that checking in part helps with the growth. And I've learned a lot, especially with the youth program. So what we do with the youth is that we rotate leadership roles with the young people. So one person might be this week responsible for getting the tools out the shed, bringing it to the garden and taking it back. Another person might be more responsible for the watering schedule, the weeding schedule, right? Another person might be responsible for greeting people when they come into the garden and doing like the walking tours. But we're kind of showing them these are all the pieces that make this community farm work. And it also attracts people to keep coming back and keep growing. Because again, they might not have been raised to run a business. So we're showing them how to run a business, but then we're also showing them like leadership skills, critical thinking, creativity, all those sort of pieces. And that's the piece that works. But then the other piece that's also helping us out is the connection out to the community, right? So as a farmer, we're in the trenches, we're sweating, we're getting this. So the last thing that we're doing is thinking about where does Aunt Mary stay at, where does Sister Jen stay at. So having volunteers and community members that are like door knockers, that are knowing the people around the neighborhood and bringing what we grow back to them is also a key piece of the program as well. So you want some workers in the field, but sometimes I don't need workers in the field as much as I might need 4 or 5 people that could just be relational and be able to feel comfortable talking to a total stranger, or feel comfortable like saying, hey, Sister Mary, we're about to get this food. What do you need? When don't you have a doctor's appointment?
Yeah.
When can we drop this off? So those are also part of like the whole community piece and building. And then lastly, the other thing that's also happening that I try to get people to understand is that, so Flint River Fresh, we're part of the Flint River Soil Water Conservation District.
Okay.
So that is like a federally funded programs that are around conservation, conserving our natural resources, helping farmers grow in a more sustainable, long-term sort of way. And so we're also incorporating for the small guy and for community, how you can grow with a more conservative approach. So we're doing things sustainable. We're doing things less chemical based. We're doing things, matter of fact, like this week, I put in a smart irrigation system at a community garden to monitor the water. So you don't have to go out there and cut the water on and off, and it's ran through an app on your phone. Because work with the youth, apps and technology go hand in hand. But I've also been with older farmers that now have like iPads that are like monitoring their fields, looking at the soil moisture. Oh, what about 80%? Oh, I need to turn it on today. We could conserve the Flint River a little bit longer. And so there are all these different layers that are there, but then they're like hiccups because again, people come through the door. Well, this is how I think it's going to be. And the hardest, the biggest barrier like I deal with is someone that's watched a lot of YouTube videos, someone that's read a lot of books. Somebody's like, look, I know all about regenerative farming and like, that's great. I don't need you to be in that box because we're trying to feed Miss Mary. And Miss Mary, she don't like kale. I'm trying to tell you, you can't bring kale chips to Miss Mary. It's not going to work. But you could bring some collards and some turnips and she'll be happy. Now, I get where you're coming from. I'm all about it. But my end goal is to feed Miss Mary. I got you. But let's feed Miss Mary first. And I can show you everything you want to know. But my community spaces are, who are the people standing around here and what are they lacking? And how can I be a vessel to give them what they're lacking?
That's beautiful. So that's a lot of the kind of the internal wrestlings of the good things, the difficult obstacles. Let's go a little bit wider when we're talking about not just communities like neighborhoods, but cities and towns. So you've worked with Albany, you've worked with Americus. Tell me a little bit about just what framework does a city need, a city officials need to be able to bring someone like you in? Like what are the things that they have to do to make you feel welcome? And what are the things that could really damper someone like you coming in trying to help a community?
Okay. So I always like to start positive, then go to the negative. So the positive is I'm currently working on a project through a collaboration with Morehouse School of Medicine and trying to launch it like in Terrell County. And so in the meetings when we have these conversations about healthy food, wellness programs, entrepreneurship for youth, walking trails, it's a collective community conversation. So it's the mayor's office, it's the economic development, it is the county commission office, it is the local health clinics, it is parks and recreation, all sitting in a space and let's talk collectively how we can make this program work. Because what we found is the way we frame it now, so this kind of leads into our Fresh RX program, which is like food is medicine, right? But we've added a wellness, nutrition, education, and cooking component. So it's not just here's a garden. It's like, when people get food from the garden, how do they cook it? Well, let's bring in somebody that knows how to cook. Parks and Rec, do you guys have any means for us to set up a mobile kitchen? Oh, yep, we have a community center. You can totally do it. So what brings me in is a joint collaborative of different partners that are already thinking we need to eat better. We need to move. Our people need to move a little bit more. And we need to come together frequently, at least every 3 to 4 months as a community to celebrate our town, our city, easy. Now, the hiccup is when communities, organization, and businesses can be isolated where they want to be the head honcho, right? They want to put our names up in lights, right? Like we have to be line 1 on the document versus that's where the hiccup comes. Where like I have to be territorial, and I've been here 20 years. Yeah. Okay, you've been here 20 years. I got you. But in 20 years, what have you done? And in that 20 years, what you've done has only maintained what you did 20 years. That doesn't advance what's currently happening to the people. Because in that 20 years, there's been a child that's graduated. There has been somebody that's lost a job. There's been somebody that's been evicted. So what can we do collectively? And if you're too prideful of not being able to say, look, at the end of the day, this is one of my lines I love using. At the end of the day, if my only job is to staple the papers, I'm fine with that. I can care. I'm not about the book. I'm not about the words. All I have to do is just staple that paper and the mission gets done. I'm going to be the best stapler you've ever seen. It's going to be at a 45-degree angle. Yeah. Dogtail, nice and easy. And so my biggest hiccup is getting people to understand that when we come through the door at Flint River Fresh, we're coming through strictly as collaborative partners. Yeah. Even though we might come with do this, and it's just because of past experiences, but we really want to come through to say, how can we help you? Yeah. Yeah. And getting people to feel comfortable, like receiving help. Okay. Yeah. This is what we need help at. Okay.
So would you feel like an obstacle would be, all right, we've been there, we've done this before, this has been successful. Then you go into an environment where they say, well, why does it have to be you? Why can't it be these 6 other people? And let's start having these conversations. You're like, man, I just feel like we're going to go round and round in circles and no one's going to take any ownership of this. Yep. And now you've lost someone who's willing to do all the work for you to be able to get this set up. I just need you to say, we are for this, so therefore we want to bring you in. But when that's not taking place, it's just confusion.
Yep. Nobody takes ownership. Nobody steps up. Then when it falters, they come back to say, well, you brought the idea, but I also brought the plan. Yeah. And the plan is a part that you guys didn't want to delegate. So that's always a hard pill to swallow, because every business has its own mission statement, deliverables, people they're held accountable to. Yeah. So we get that. But then I also feel that there's a space where what can we do, like long game, long vision, right? So it's like, you want to do things with young people, but I've learned that I don't want to do things with all young people. Yeah. We've kind of found our niche of young people that we work with. Yep. And we can share our turnkey template with your group of young people and let you do your thing. Yeah. Yeah. So even on that scale, there's still a lack of understanding of awareness, because the people that are in charge are not fully aware of what's kind of going on around them. And then there's a lack of accountability when it comes to, okay, well, if you say you're going to do it and you start doing it, but no one's going to manage it, then we're going to have gardens have turf grass, right? You're going to be working from super side. Yeah. So have you seen that? I know you said you talked about, organizations, people that start things, there's turf grass later. Have you experienced that on that level too, where counties or cities that are just like starting and then there's turf grass? Well, what I found is that, so I'm going to use schools as this reference point. So when we first got brought into school gardens, you have like a science teacher that's really about the gardens, and they're there, they're working beside you, they're bringing the kids and stuff in, but then that science teacher goes off and get a job like in a bigger city. So you go back to that same school. Now there's no one there that has the same passion as that science teacher. So what ends up happening is that you end up spending time just because, again, you don't want the garden to go to waste, because you know that one thing we found out during COVID, during our school, gardens became the spaces where the people that were still cutting the grass at the school, the cafeteria workers that were still making sack lunches that were being shipped to kids that were homebound, the janitors that were there putting bleach, cleaning up the schools were still there, and they were going out to the garden and harvesting and eating off of it, right? So that heart moment of is here to serve the community. And so what we struggle with, and that's why we try to come in more of curriculum-based, administrative-based, is like, this is a program that can meet educational standards. So whether it's a CTAE program, whether it's a science program, whether it's an English program, social studies and math, here are some standards that you can apply to your everyday schooling that can benefit from this garden space. And so we come with that angle first because we know that there's state testing that has to be done. We know there's certain graduation requirements that have to be done, but we try to partner, and it goes back to what I said earlier about if we can sit down with the people and let's have a conversation, not just, oh, let's build a garden, but let's sit down and think of.
So how do you know when they're serious? Like you have a conversation and you can tell probably right away they're serious about this. What are those indicators for you?
They have all the resources laid out after we show them the plan of what it really costs to do it. And then they come back to you and they're like, well, we found this grant resource that'll help with this. We found this resource that'll help with this. We have I'm just going to use school, for instance. We have a principal, assistant principal that are locked in, and we have the CTAE person locked in.
Yeah.
Now we can like move forward. From a community standpoint, it's like the same sort of thing where it's like tied into like an overall like wellness program, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we spend more time working with community health clinics or hospitals like Phoebe or Albany Primary Healthcare, or like in Columbus, like Valley Healthcare System, where their whole mission is to be preventive care to make sure our community is better because they focus more on preventive care. It's less in the emergency room, it's less of this lockdown, and allows for their resources to be spread out, right?
Yeah.
But then they have the already internal workings of how to delegate their staff to help support 20 raised garden beds because they are already micromanaging 200, 300, whatever plus people.
Yeah. So it goes from someone, you can tell when someone is just wants, let me just say it this way, wants the clout from someone who wants to champion it.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between someone who's really excited because of what that means for them in their minds to someone who says, this is who I am. I want to champion this. I'm going to make sure it gets through. I will not fail. And I think that those are some of the keys that it would take for whether it's a place like Phoebe, got to have a champion. We're going to champion this. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do. To even city officials that say, hey, this is not just something that we feel like we need to do because it's the right thing. This is who we are.
Yeah.
We're going to champion that. And so I think that that's helpful. And that's not just with food, it's anything in our community, right? So if we're thinking about the future of Americus, what we want from everyday neighbors to our city officials is to say, hey, it's not just that we have the idea of it that looks good. We have to have awareness of what we need. But we also need to have accountability to, hey, somebody's got to own it. Mm-hmm. We can't just keep passing the buck all the time. Somebody's got to own this. And so as we look towards the future of Americus, first, just on a personal level, because you shared a little bit before we started the podcast, but for the future, for you, Farmer Fredo, like what do you hope for you in the future? And what's the next 5, 10, 15 years? Where do you want to end up?
So I want to be able to sit in a chair like this with a camera right in front of me, and people just call up and we just talk the plays, create a playbook, and share it, and just kind of keep sharing it. Being able to travel places, help people develop the same sort of blueprint, but then also being able to invite people to come see like living examples of like what I'm talking about, right? So one thing I always tell to one of my mentors about is I want to create like a space where I want to create a space where someone can want to travel and say, hey, just come down to Americus, come down to Albany, spend about 2 hours with me, maybe 3 hours, and let's just hop into a car and let me show you how we made food more accessible and we made food more secure. And let's introduce you to the partners that happen.
Yeah.
To be able to do that, to take somebody that's in a major city or take somebody that not even major, take somebody that's also staying in a rural town that's like, what can we possibly do with a population underneath like 50,000 people to make our community healthier, to make our community more unified, to make our community have an identity about who we are as a community.
Yeah.
And be able to show them examples of, we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we just walk around downtown 3 days a week. We get up at this time, we come to an after school program and we just sit down with kids and we just read them books. We get up and go get a church group to do a meal on a Wednesday, and we literally just go feed people into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or we work with the local housing authority, and they have a listing of their residents that are homebound, and we're bringing them fresh food with cookbooks and restaurant recipes, right? And so to show them what is not make-believe, like this is real, this is tangible.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to see in about 10, 15 years. And I
in a place like Americus,
and
right?
I've seen it like a small town, like when COVID happened. One of the things, the blessing or the curse was we did all this phenomenal work during COVID of food access work because my board at Flint River Fresh said we could use some of our resources to buy food from restaurants, to buy food for farmers that were going to have to turn over fields and take it to people that were homebound through partnerships with the housing authority, through partnerships with apartment managers, through partnerships with different churches. Like the blessing I saw like in COVID from February to like April was literally thousands of pounds of food being moved through everyday people. Like I tell stories, like we literally made our own UPS mail delivery service, took a Google map, created zones, and had people meet us at the garden or the civic center and drive the neighborhoods and just drop stuff off to people. And it was like ongoing for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And I always said that if it took a pandemic for this to happen, we could probably do this pretty regularly. So when I go to like city councils, like places like Americus or whatnot, is that we know the layout of the land. We can go to the Phoebe and they can do a whole study by zip code and street of where people are at. And so that need help or assistance or coming into the emergency room. And then we can bring in, y'all just got like a Planet Fitness, right?
Yeah.
Like $10 a month. All right, well, people need to get on a treadmill and walk. Can you cover somebody $10 a month?
Yeah.
Oh, y'all could probably do that. Well, let's work it in. Like somebody, and so what I see 10, 15 years from now is sitting in chairs like this, talking to people like yourself that have an influence of like 50 other people, and just sitting down with them and just sharing how your support, one person at a time, can make the biggest impact in shifting the dynamic of our community, and we can be more unified. If we can all show up on Friday night for a football game, or for a basketball game, or for my son or daughters in a play or at band, whatever, then we could also just show up to say, look, we're just here to look out for the person like next door. And so one of the things, like I started at the beginning talking about like my grandfather and grandmother, was that being from Plains, you have a very humbling understanding of the impact of a person when you just know that President Carter literally ate like your grandmother's cooking. And there's like proof, right? So you're like, my grandmama fed a president. So if you think about that simple statement of like feeding your neighbor, like your neighbor literally could be the president. Like literally in the archery community where President Carter's from is literally like my grandmother's folks. So when you see the names on the wall at the Boyhood Farm, I'm like, oh, that's my relative right there. And they played with. And so looking out for the person next to you, not with the goal of what can I get from them, but what can I create so the person next to me can really be their best self. That's the end goal. And if you focus on that, man, you get a president out of it.
That's right. Well, Americus is, 15,000 people, right? In Sumter County, which is about 30,000 people. But let's just say Americus. Do you have kind of just a general number of how many maybe community gardens need to be started here for us to be able to kind of work through? Now that, again, not every single person is going to need this particular thing, though it would be great for everyone to pull from it. Right. But what would you say? Like if you said, I got a plan out today, I'd love to see this many gardens in, all throughout Americus.
So our rationale is like so every raised garden box that we do at the school is 4x8.
Okay.
And we found out from like science that a 4x8 raised garden box is enough to feed like 2 to 3 people, right?
Okay.
So if you had 15,000 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would need 3,000 4x8 garden boxes. We kind of can do the math, right? So that's roughly intensely growing, probably about 3 to like 5 acres that's designated just to feed people, right?
Okay.
So it's not a huge plot of land.
Yeah.
But the problem that you face is the location.
It's got to be delegated throughout the community,
throughout
right?
the community, or it has to be a centralized hub that people in the community can come to and then be able to go back and like designate and drop off.
Yeah.
So during COVID, one of the ideas we had was, what if you could take a shipping container, put it in a neighborhood that needs access to food, put in some sort of like refrigerated unit just to basically be like to drop it off, have a type of like, lock and key, whatever sort of system. And then people in the neighborhood know like, oh, it's Thursday. Oh, it's like fresh pick day. Set up a little, we call them pop-up farm stands or mobile markets. People in the community can come get what they need, and it's on like a regular schedule. And then you have like this farm, I say like 10 acres, but you might need 20.
Yeah.
But you need people to come pick, people to come tend to it, but you can travel and bring it to folks. But then what you can have is a local church that can serve as a training ground.
Yeah.
It's not so much to feed the whole neighborhood, but it's a 1/4 acre, but it's designed to teach people how to grow in their backyard, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm gonna show you how to build a 4x8 box. I'm gonna show you how to grow out of a 5-gallon bucket. I'm gonna show you how to grow off the little pot that you got at the Dollar Tree. But you come here to this church or community center, and we have monthly trainings that's literally like, we're gonna train you, give you the stuff you need for this month, whether it's seed, soil, fertilizer. Now you go back home and do it. Come back next week, next month. We're going to tell you what to do this month. And so we've had success in Albany where we have a space called like the Hope Center.
Yeah.
And so we literally would do these sort of classes and invite the community to come in free of charge, give away seeds for free, give away soil for free, have dates where people come to our 5th Avenue garden site and bring buckets, trailers, trucks. We have a front end loader. We scoop up soil, dump it into the back of people's truck. But all this is supported through community groups, small businesses, federal grants and programs that allow for us to do this sort of work.
Yeah.
So in a town,
do you have something like that in Americus just yet?
We have a community garden here in Americus, but we haven't got to the level we're at in Dougherty County, and that's just because we don't have like the organization or the team that wants to take on how we do stuff in the community. Because like if you work with youth, one of the biggest struggle is how do I get the young people around?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like at school, you got
to school. So you feel like the city's for you, but you just got to get the people around the team around you, or do you feel like it's kind of both and you still need the city to kind of come alongside of you?
I really would like to have the city come alongside, and because here in Americas, we have a program called Healthy Sumter.
Okay.
So I want to make sure promote, and this is a collaborative project of different organizations. And so Healthy Sumter has a website about like community gardens, walking, healthy initiative. But I really would like to see the community embrace Healthy Sumter.
Yeah.
So walking, eating, movement, embrace it. But I still think it's one of those things where I didn't come up with it. So I'm not really sure how I fit in.
Yep.
And I think the easiest route is, and this is what we did in Dougherty County. Like, again, I'm thankful that when we launched Flint River Fresh, we had like the backing of the Dougherty County Board of Commissions.
Yeah.
The backing of
they're basically like you run it.
They're like the Chamber of Commerce had our back. The EDC had our back. So we had all the heavyweights working with us, and then they were connecting us to the community people, whether it was the Board of Education, whether it was like Georgia Farm Bureau, whether it was the Georgia Department of Agriculture. So they kept us connected, even though we're a small organization.
Yeah.
They kept us
because you can make the calls, you can make those relationships stick, because everyone else, if they had to do it, it'd be almost like kind of just too much to manage in a sense. Right. But because it was one isolated group that was like, we'll own everything, just give us a shot. They started networking you. You took advantage of that.
That's exactly it.
And people knew who to go to. They weren't trying to call 6 different. Well, who am I supposed to talk to? You talk to Farmer Fredo. That's who you talk to, right? Flint River Fresh, right?
Yep.
That's great. And I think that that's helpful for small communities like that too, of like, we need to know who do we talk to.
And I think to your point, you bring up a good light bulb. So in order to do this in a town like Americus, you really have to have like a centralized organization that holds the bag.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes it easier for communication. And if you don't have that, you do have, I'm doing this. And so what we did with the Healthy Sumter Project is let's put it in the Healthy Sumter bag. But now we need everybody to start using this bag to funnel stuff through related to a healthier community, wellness, nutrition education, community garden, healthy eating through this one platform. And through this platform, you can bring in conversations about mental health. You can bring in conversations about low birth weight for like maternity moms and things like that, right? So you can bring it in because it's all tied to what we eat, what we consume, and how much we are outside. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting to the end of the podcast. I want to ask a few what we call rapid fire questions. Okay. So these are just kind of like, you don't have to go into detail, but just some things that I think would be just get a chance to get to know you a little bit. Some are going to be more lean towards your expertise. So do you like raised beds or do you like in the ground gardening the most?
If you're going to take care of it, raised beds.
Yeah.
If you're going to leave out in about 3 weeks, in ground gardening, so I can just mow it down and let the grass grow.
Love it. Okay. All right. If Americus had a signature crop, what should it be and why?
Because I was birthed through Cornelia Farms. It's going to be pecan.
Okay. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Okay.
And because we could do pecan pies, we could do pecan pralines. Like that would be like my crop. Because again, it's so versatile. You can ship it all over the world. It'd be pecans. Okay.
All right. I know there's different places in town, but if you had a dream vacant lot that you could just say, I'm going to put a garden here, where would that be in Americus?
The old hospital grounds.
Old hospital grounds.
Old hospital grounds coming down like Lamar, where the hospital was destroyed like by the tornadoes. The empty lot that's right by like Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
It'd be like right there.
Nice. Okay. All right. As far as tools are concerned, like when you're gardening, what is the most underrated tool that's probably under $50 to $25 that you're just like, oh, you got to have that if you're going to be doing something?
I call it an action hoe.
Okay.
But it's an oscillator hoe. So it's like it's a hoe that has some give.
Okay.
So it's not like the solid piece.
Yeah.
And you literally could just use it scraking back and forth.
Nice.
On the garden bed, and it keeps it weed free as long as you stay on top of it.
Okay. All right. And if there was a young student who just wanted to plant their first seed, like what would you want to give them?
This time of year, I would give them turnips.
Okay.
Because they grow really quickly in about 30 days. If it was the summertime, I would give them a cucumber.
Okay.
Or a green bean.
Nice.
Because they're all like quick growing, 30 to 45 days. And most kids either know about green beans, they know about cucumbers. Yeah. And not saying they know about turnips, but the root ball itself is like an aha, like, oh, wow, that's the size of a tennis ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Just a few other kind of random personal questions. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Coffee all day, cafe, cappuccino.
All right. Do you drink it with any flavors, or you just drink it straight black? Or
I do. Cafe has like this Americus blend.
Okay.
It has like a chocolate sort of like taste to it.
Nice.
So I guess you would say with flavor.
Okay.
And then when I was at Cornelia, we would have the Cornelia cafe coffee, but like even when it's like 100 degrees outside, I still go to a coffee shop and get a cup of coffee.
That's right.
And it's so bad that in Albany, like down at Leesburg, down the street from where I stay at, they like know my face. They know what I want. They're like, you want the medium or the large this time?
There you go.
It's just that. And so it's 5 pounds of sugar, cream, half and half, but it's steamed because it keeps it warm longer.
Okay. All right. What about your go-to comfort food?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken? Is there any good place in Americus you like to go?
It all depends. See,
Okay.
Americus being home, like it all depends because I have so many memories of different restaurants. So I hate to like shout one out.
Yeah,
but
I
like,
hear you. I hear you.
Like,
I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, I'm not.
All right. All right.
I'm not. But
As a gardener, as someone, what is your favorite season?
fall.
Yeah.
Because like you start to get the cool. And it's like today when you woke up this morning,
man, it felt good, didn't it?
So good. And that fold stays like that the whole day.
Yeah.
And that's and there's less bugs.
Yeah.
Less pests like eating up your food. You're able to stay out there longer.
Yeah.
Like fall is like my season. Like if it gets a little bit too warm, you could like take off like the long sleeve and still be fine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Farmer Fredo, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been super informative for me. I'm encouraged not only by what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And I look forward to communities like Americus just continuing to come alongside of you and want to see this. Because again, this is something that individuals can be a part of, that builds families, that builds communities. What a great way to get people involved, but also they benefit from it, whether it's immediately or even in long term for others. And I love how you just said, you could be feeding the next president of the United States.
Yeah, you can.
If you just reach out to others a little bit more. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. And one other thing, Thanksgiving, please follow us because we always do a community giveaway in Sumter County through the Healthy Sumter Project. And so be on the lookout, join us, follow us on social media. And I really want to encourage more community support. Yep. So if you are a community group and you're trying to serve and you're trying to make a difference or impact, reach out to us through the Healthy Sumter Project because we do have current resources that we do want to make available. And we do have a goal by like 2030, somewhere in there, that we'd like to have like 5 more community gardens in Sumter County. So we have the resources and the means to do it. So feel free to reach out. So this isn't like guesswork. If this is something that you're passionate about, we have an intake form. Get involved.
And this is with Healthy Sumter?
Healthy Sumter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're doing community gardens and food distribution, and we have the resources to do that. We just need the right partners to step up and be a part of it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, if you're looking for something like that, please get involved. Again, this is so much more than just a project. This is about people. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. That's awesome, man. Hey,
the mic just went down.